Baby, don't kill my vibe for me. Shall we go make until the morning? Oh, man, Jamaica, when you love the cat or the Mobile. If you do, I make me sorry now. Cause I'm my money, I will take $50 on my child. Mobile. See your love is you say no. Now leave the container. In my head, you're the place. Baby, you are my other time. You know, we can tell our flavor. Right now, for the next one, still on your own, and I'm loving it. Don't show. Don't treat me like a fool now. Okay. Baby, girl, I know you now. Don't show. Now maybe one for you. Yeah. See every morning, every night, every day, my baby. Um, Somebody call the popo. I want to report the murder day. Murder. Somebody call the popo. On my baby, oh. One man down on the love highway. In the market, I'm out of the I don't need nobody. I'm so lonely, I have to go. I wear my life is slow. Cause up there, it just feels like home. Everywhere I go. No time to get calm down. No time. You can kill my vibe. You can kill my vibe. When you get when you see baby, we are me, I don't get tired from me. Baby, don't kill my vibe from me. People might come and be like something. But I know me, you pick up a body. From my come and be like something. But I know me, you pick up a body. Cause if you're milky for fronting now for me, hold on for me, I don't go to me corny. And if you're milky now fighting, I don't me to look. Then like on me, you baby from my body. Baby, thunder, waka waka, when you went down, Malika. Baby, thunder, will you give me sugar, wala, wala. Macho Mona Lisa, 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 Macho Mona Lisa. be foolish if I don't let you indulge me. Your lips like poison. I take my chance with you. If I did, I'm not tired. You don't know if you can ever. You're in the night. I'll show you my love. Like nothing. Put you hold you down in the corner, corner. Waka waka when you enter on your liquor. In corner, corner. Do you give me sugar? La la la. Macho Mona Lisa. Macho.
Good morning once more, colleagues. If we may please take our seat, we will commence. as a starting point, I know the back seats are very comfortable, but there are still seats available on these two tables particularly. If you don't mind, please, for the three tables at the back, if you can fill up the seats at the front, there are still colleagues that are coming in a bit late. We do apologize for that. And yes, oh, kodwa bahleli la, asibaboni. Khulumela amadlozi akho. All right. Even though they're powerful, as a matter, if we can, so, all right, can I also join the seat? All right, thank you very much. Good morning once more. So when we convene in spaces where we ask political parties to talk to us about what it is they have on offer, we make very important statements around who was invited, who accepted, who's here, who's not, so that our constituency as yourselves can be able to use that if you choose as part of the decision-making process. So let me list the political parties that we had invited today. I see the MKs here, even though it's not the speaker that was going to be joining us. We have Bosa in the room. ACPP has indicated that they're on their way. Freedom Fund Plus, we just had an interaction outside. The national office had said they're not available, but the provincial office is saying they would have been available. So that's the other challenge. As it relates to Freedom Fund Plus, we've invited the EFF, no response. We've invited Patriotic Alliance. They had to go to this IEC briefing. My challenge with that sort of understanding from their side is that they don't have other people to deploy. So Patriotic Alliance was invited, but was unable to come, the individual that was contacted directly. Who else? In the previous sessions, we have already engaged, of course, with the likes of the UDM, with Action SA, with Rise and Zansi, with IFP. So they were not invited to this session because we want to give different political parties an opportunity to give us what they have on the cards for us. So I think at the moment, that's who I can recall. But I will also engage with my list outside in terms of the RSVPs and see where we at with that. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining us as we make a very important decision in our country's history and electoral politics on the 29th of May. We hope that all that we undertake will be from an informed basis. And so we convene settings like this as a democracy-driven program to try and inform the constituency that we have access to. The people that we have in the room are organizations, activists, people with their own constituencies. And ultimately, we hope that that message trickles down. We understand that some people might be touchy about things like venues, where you hold it. So when you talk about central venues, it's always central to the host. Our offices are at Smith Street, so it wasn't central for us to maybe go to Umhlanga or go to Scottsburg. So we do apologize if there are any challenges around getting to the venue itself, and we do so we hope that you don't take that to heart in any instance. But as recognizing that yourselves have your own constituencies and communities that come from, we also wanted to flip the script a bit and say, we're not going to start with political parties for the presentation. We want to hear from you in the room, but we also then will have, after having heard from the political parties, our own sort of analyst, an individual who's quite astute in political commentary, in engaging with and about political parties and the work that they and the impact of the work that they do in this country. Dr. Ongama Mtemka from the Nelson Mandela University. Sometimes the Nelson Mandela University, I stumble quite a lot because I'm used to it when I was still NNMU. But it's the Nelson Mandela University, the NMU now, and that we hope that he'll be able to give us insight specifically. The first political forum that we had on the 13th of March specifically spoke to the triple threat challenges, the idea of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And for this session, we'll be talking to healthcare, security, and safety. Those are the three key issues that we hope political parties will engage with directly in terms of how their manifestos address those issues. Of course, there will be opportunity for them to speak about other things that come up in the room, but we hope that the primary focus for today's discussion will be around those three issues. We appreciate the responsiveness of BOSA in particular, and the MK, even though there are challenges because MK being a about who the leadership structure is at the moment. So they don't participate in debates ordinarily, as has been their position since they launched at the moment for the elections, because of the nature of how they are mobilizing on the ground. And so we acknowledge that, we understand. But ultimately, we also are grateful to have with us the ACDP in the room. And so we'll be able to engage on what the prospects are for us as citizens on the issues that we've outlined. Ultimately, we hope that the debate is both respectful but engaging in the sense that we will hold you to in some respects to task for the things that you mention and say. We will ask probing questions, but ultimately our questions are not in judgment, but in aid of the constituencies that we serve. So when we talk about your manifesto or your promises, we don't want to misunderstand you. We don't want to misinterpret what you say. So sometimes we will ask follow-up questions. And they might seem a bit spicy at times, but we do apologize for, and we hope that the tone is not aggressive or antagonistic. And we hope that you can keep in mind the space and time that we're in. It's been mentioned on a number of forums how contested this specific election is, but we do understand that the contestation needs to be mindful of the political and social environment that we're faced in, particularly because we honor and we wish that the Constitution itself will reign supreme, ultimately, in the ways in which we discourse, maintaining things like dignity, respect for individual rights, etc. Let me ask our Executive Director, Dr. Paul Kariuki, to do an official welcome, and then I'll continue with the process. So a round of applause to Dr. Kariuki.
Good morning, colleagues. I trust you're all well since the last time we saw you in the last forum. And I thank you so much, Brian, for the great background of what we're going to be doing today. Please allow me, first of all, to appreciate and thank all of you for making time to be here with us. We do not take your time off for granted. We know it takes a lot nowadays to get 6 or so hours out of people's lives to be in one place. And so we are thankful for that, because that's the commitment that you're showing towards this process. I'm also thankful to have Dr. Ongama Mtimika for coming here. I'm sure you've seen him and heard from him, and we're so privileged that we could be able to host him here today and share with us this precious opportunity to be able to make sense of our political landscape going forward. And members of political parties that are here also, I really want to thank you for supporting DDP's work in one way or another. And we are thankful that you see value in this kind of engagements that we constantly create, so that we can have meaningful and constructive dialogues between political parties and citizens, especially not only just this time around, but all through our work. And you have been part of that process for a long time. And we're thankful for that commitment to our work. And of course, our representatives from the civil society sector and broadly, who also value our commitment to keep on engaging the citizenry and the public and the political parties and the various organs of the state, to ensure that the voices of citizens are heard in the right places, that we are able to hold our leaders accountable, and at the same time also we're able to galvanize our effort to protect our democracy, defend it, and ensure that it's sustained for a long time. And so I'm so thankful for all other constituencies that are in this room, that I'm told we are quite a diverse group this morning, which is really important to see that we are all looking at from the same hymn sheet, so to say. And this hymn sheet is about ensuring that our democracy continues to thrive even for the generations to come. But that requires that you and I are conscious of our civic responsibility that we have to make sure that we participate in. At the same time, also knowing that we have an important event in our calendar of the year as a nation. As Brian has correctly framed, it's an interesting election because it's this year we are celebrating 30 years of democracy since 1994. But at the same time, also the contestation that this election is bringing on board. It's really interesting to see how political landscape can shift within, even a day is too long in politics. And I think even with the outcome of the electoral court yesterday, or the court yesterday, just describes that. And now we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting rush in trying to get things done by political parties, and of course from our seasoned stakeholder, DDP, the IEC Independent Electoral Commission, that has its fat cat at. I want to be able to speak more on that. We have our colleague here, Mpume, can be able to speak to that more eloquently than I can do. But for me, on behalf of the DDP teams, to appreciate your commitment in supporting our work. This work fits into our elections work for the year. And this is a second series of engagement with political parties. We might convene another one just before the elections, sometimes in May, depending on how we see things working out. But we are very excited about our election program, which we, if you didn't know, that DDP is already setting up a civil society observer mission. We aim to amplify that number to almost 3,000, just about 10% of the total voting stations in the country. Probably about 24,000 or somewhere around that. And we're trying to see if we can put about 3,000 observers. And that is to give us less a broad scope to ensure that the electoral integrity of our elections is maintained. We can provide an independent conclusion about the state of the elections, whether they're free or fair. And we also believe in ourselves as a citizen and a civil society sector. Of course, I'm sure probably some of you may have heard the party DA about 2 or so weeks ago had indicated that maybe we do not have the capacity to observe the elections. Maybe we should have other people. And I'm sure they got it wrong, isn't it? Yeah, thank you, my brother. They got it wrong. We have the capacity to observe our own elections, isn't it? And we can still provide credible assessment whether our elections are free and fair, and that's the role that we play as civil society. So that process is ongoing. So we're having all these kind of discussions going on. As Brian framed it here, we're not only just meeting here. As we speak today, there's a few community dialogues taking place in different places in our metro. And we continue to do that with mobilizing and engaging citizens at different places, because we know that not everybody can be able to come in here. But we're using the spaces that we have, including our radio community partners who are helping us with our talk shows, to continue mobilizing citizens and informing them, because we want to make sure that we played our part in ensuring that citizens are adequately informed to make better decisions at the ballot box. So I wish you all and ourselves a good deliberation. Enjoy our hospitality and engage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kariuki. So once he said welcome, then you're going to be fine. You can be able to engage comfortably. There's nothing else to offer. But I want to, as I indicated, to start us off on a different sort of tangent. As I indicated, we will get an opportunity to hear from political parties very shortly, in about 20 minutes time. But I wanted to spend the first 20 minutes to hear from yourselves. If we talk about healthcare, we talk about safety, and we talk about security in particular. What are the key issues that you are hoping will shift as a result of your vote on May the 29th? If you are going to, has you been engaging with your different constituencies and communities? What are some of the concerns that communities have in the various communities and spaces that you convene in? What is going to drive people to the polls or keep them away from the polls as it relates to these three issues? And I'll share sort of a brief story about myself. So being a Black young South African in particular, I experienced the thing of being one of the first to get a tertiary education and to be able to get like meaningful employment. So we're currently dealing with a healthcare crisis at home, and I've had to navigate public hospitals, which for me, I've never been a sickly person, so I hadn't had to go to public hospitals quite often before I got onto medical aid. Thanks, Paul. But now that a family member is not well, I'm having to go through the process, and I'm finding, for instance, how cumbersome the bureaucracy is. That when you can see potentially that it's an emergency for you as a family member who cares about this person, they'll tell you, no, you need to go to a clinic first and then go to a hospital. And then even the hospital that you go to, they tell you, no, we get referrals from a different hospital. So you must start at that other hospital first. So if someone's going to die on the way, what matter? What's the point of going from one process to the other? Can someone not be seen initially? And people make an assessment about whether it's an emergency based on the amount of blood that's oozing from your body. And it's like, but where's the dignity in all of these things that we're engaged in? As it relates to safety, perhaps one of the stories we all are familiar with. I come from Inanda. I was born in Inanda. I don't live there anymore. Thank God. No, I genuinely, in the sense that no, guys, it's not. Thanks, Paul. No, so the reason why I'm saying this is because leadership. So we are amongst the top 3 ranking violent crime hotspots in the country. It can't be a joy to come to live in that space right now. The trajectory of young people's futures that have been stunted by the socioeconomic environment in that space is quite scary. The levels and degrees of violence against women, in particular, the rape cases that we hear from, one of the top 3 again come from Inanda Police Station. The extent of drug use and substance abuse in particular, I saw it around me as I was growing up, and because I was an introvert, as people who I think I was lucky to not find myself in that space. So just to be anecdotal about it. And so when we talk about security and safety, those are some of the things that inform my decision making on the 29th of May, for instance. So share some of those stories. Tell us. You don't have to go. I'm abusing the platform because I'm the program director, but ultimately, I just wanted to be able to give you an example of some of the things that concern me about where we are in this country and in space. And so, what are some of the things that are moving you to make the vote on 29th of May? What are some of the key things that you hope that political parties are able to resolve? And what are the mechanisms that you are thinking of in terms of resolving them? And do you think at the moment that political parties can engage us? We'll use that as the basis to ask some probing questions to the political parties that are in the room. They'll get an opportunity to do an initial introductory remarks, but we'll also be able to then feedback based off of our discussions right now. Okay? So I'd like you to discuss at your tables. If there are only 2 of you, please join a table with slightly more people so that your discussion can be a bit more wholesome. For political parties, I offer this opportunity to you to just listen. You don't have to engage directly, but if you're moved to at that table, you're welcome to do so as well. So for now, I'll ask people to discuss at the table for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and do some plenary discussions thereafter. Yes, sir. You have a question, process-wise? Pen, you need a mic. Okay. Blue? Sorry, orange. My bad.
My name is Muzondi. I've been blessed in my life, and I think I've been favored over the past couple of weeks. I've always had lived on medical aid since 1996. And I find myself that last month, I died and got resuscitated at a private hospital and had to go from private hospital into the public hospital. And life, guys, in public hospital is in shambles. You don't want to go to I've always been at Westville Hospital, and you know exactly everything is done systematic. The toilets are clean into a state where there is not even when you sit at the toilet.
Oh, sorry. The signal is. Can you come closer? Sorry, the signal to that.
The shower doesn't work. You can't shower because there is scum, and you don't know if you sleep and fall. I will not mention the hospital, but if you sleep and fall, who's going to come and rescue you? The food, there is no food in hospital, guys. There's a crisis. And I had government department in Limpopo also trying to justify and water down the story. I lived in the hospital here. There is no food. You only get given a slice of bread with butter and tea that is made in a big teapot And that sustains you. And I even asked the nurses that this guy sitting next to me is diabetic. Why do you give him tea that's made with sugar? And you expect him to live. And 2 beds away from me, a guy died. When he was calling for help, the nurses shouted, I went, I'll say, exactly 5 minutes, he died. And if you've never seen a person die, I died, got resuscitated. And that guy died. And they had to pretend as if nothing happened. And you know, when someone comes with ihlahla, and we all were shocked. But for some of the guys that have been there for years in the ward, it was a norm for them. So what I'm trying to say is that for what you saying it's a member of the family, for me, I lived through that, like last month. But none of the political parties, especially in the province, have said, when it comes to healthcare, this is what we promise to do. And I need you guys to think carefully on, we've lived for 30 years with this mediocrity in our government. So as you stand up and talk about healthcare, if I don't say to you, I've died on the 25th of February, all hospitals in Durban rejected me. They said, we can't take this guy because when he gets here, he's dead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know, you can't say give a round of applause to someone who's just died, you know? But you can give a round of applause to the fact that he's alive and well, and thank you for your contribution. A round of applause for that. So similar sort of similar, what is the word? Yeah, testimonies, similar sort of line of thinking, but I'd like for you to have the discussion at your table first, amongst the people that you're sitting with, and then we'll give the mic around in 10 minutes time. Okay, 10 minutes for discussion. Go for it. All right, colleagues, thank you very much. Let's hear some of your sentiments and feedback. Thank you very much. Anyone wants to volunteer to start us off? Yes, Alvina. We are also joined by some colleagues online, so we will have to use the mic all the time. We are live streaming on our YouTube page at DDP Democracy. And this recording will also be available online after this session. Should anyone who's not in the room want to catch up, you're welcome to share those details with them. Yes, Alvina.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Music.
My name is Alvina Mudli. I'm a director for law firm based in Durban. Our main issue at our table was about the safety and security issue that we're facing. And hardly any political party has brought this to light on what we're going to do about the safety and security issues in our community and our country as a whole. Of particular interest was the appalling experience of going to a police station and going through that process of going to a police station. It's like people are just given respect based on who they know in that police station rather than what they're coming for. In addition, we also brought up the CPF issue as well. Most CPFs don't the necessary safety that they need. You see in areas where the CPF is actually led by the drug lords in the community. So then how are people safe if the CPF is actually sometimes also politically protected by the political party in the area? But like if people are led by a CPF that is actually the cause of the crime in the area. In addition, we spoke about the Chapter 9 institutions of the Constitution. Of interest was how the Scorpions were disbanded. And as you know, we need that independent body to monitor corruption and ensure safety in our country. Another issue, and also something that I deal a lot of, is with the unlawful arrest. So the unlawful arrests against the police, it's just soaring. It's just soaring. We're suing the minister like there's no tomorrow, the minister of police, honestly. And that's how most Durban attorneys are getting rich. Because like the police are unlawfully arresting people, sometimes even for no reason. So if the safety institutions that are meant to protect us aren't protecting us, who is doing what about it? I haven't heard any political party, from my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, speaking about this issue. And most of the government's budget is going towards paying people, civilians, for being unlawfully arrested. So yeah, I don't know. We don't know. That's it. We don't know.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alvina. So political parties in the room will correct you when they get a chance to join us on stage. So don't worry about that. But thank you very much. You speak about, for instance, the unlawful arrests that are happening. As you've seen in the past couple of months, our KZN Police Commissioner has adopted a different strategy. So if there are unlawful arrests and there are so many payments, what about potentially the unlawful killings, the extrajudicial killings, as has been spouted, for instance, on Twitter? Some of the colleagues who are engaged in the space of community safety as well as policing have been talking about our KZN in particular's response to crime, where how many people have been killed? I think there were 9 people killed recently in Marion Ridge. And so with the supposed information that there was a shootout. But it's always an extra line on Dasan Tatia's tweet that there was supposedly a shootout. But, you know, how truthful is that? And so to what extent can we trust that that's happening according to what the law prescribes? Mr. Mohale?
No, thank you so much.
From Chatsworth?
Thank you so much, Brian. With the shootout, I think yesterday I was just having an engagement with one of the constables, and they said they are only issued with 30 bullets, and if they shoot with 5, they are asked if they were in war. So they must only use 1 or 2 at least. No, with what has been discussed in our group.
So you're saying, so they're good marksmen, they teach them well when it comes to. Okay.
Yeah. So 1 or 2.
All right.
Yeah, if it's more than that, then they're in a war. It's a true story. Yeah, so with our group, the first thing we said is that political parties are basically candidates that are shortlisted for a job. You know, you say you work well under pressure, and when it's time to work well under pressure, you fail to do so. So they are basically in an interview where they have to impress the employer so that they get employment, they get a salary, and they are sorted, and they don't care about what happens afterwards. As well as one thing that have been noted is that voters are not informed of political of the manifestos. They are not well informed of the manifestos. They get to a stadium, they are told this is what we're gonna do, and that's it. There is no interaction back from the community. There is no ground, they don't have groundwork that has been done, because they take people, if you speak against them, you are out, and if not, then you move with them. And also, we realize that many political parties, their manifestos are in English. I mean, Brian spoke of Inanda. There is someone there's someone who does not understand English. How do you then expect that person to come up and say, yeah, this is the one? But guess what's in? And we also spoke on the challenges that are actually on the healthcare part. I mean, you go to a public hospital at 4 a.m. in the morning for the hospital to only open at 7 a.m. Why don't we have 24-hour services? You know, but all this are not being tackled because political parties are mainly focusing on what the people wants to hear. But when it comes to the implementation part of it, then there is nothing they are able to provide. What are the projects that they can refer to as political parties who are not in power to say, this is what we at least have been doing? But they always come and say, this is what we will do if we are in power. You already have the money and the funding. Why are you not doing something? Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. So some questions about what's the work that you've undertaken as a political party to this point. You might not be in government, you might not even be in parliament or any of the provincial legislatures yet, but what's the work that you've undertaken that can prove to us that you have a genuine concern about the issues that you're asking people to vote for you on the basis of, rather? And then, of course, the question of What are the proposals in terms of implementation that you have, and ultimately then what are you willing? How are you willing for us as citizens to hold you accountable once you've gotten your position? We don't have a recall clause in our constitution or in our electoral legislation where we can remove people once they're in power. But as a political party who's interested in creating a system of accountability, what are mechanisms that we can start to utilize that you can trust us with right now? Next hand, yes, sir. You're welcome to use the mic at the front.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunil. I want to represent a religious organizations. I'm actually a pastor. And we actually had a very, very interesting discussion. And, I wish I had like about 45 minutes. And, we pastors, we can speak. So, but
Yes,
I think
2 minutes.
the important thing, the priority that we spoke about is healthcare incorporating safety and security. Because if you go to most of the public hospitals, the healthcare is in shambles, so is safety and security. And gentleman here gave us a testimony exactly like you, sir, and even you, about how his loved one was in the hospital and told there's no beds, come back next week. That doesn't make sense. And I will attest to you, because most of the political parties are not speaking about healthcare and are not speaking about safety and security. You speak about service delivery, which is too vast. You fix a pothole, service delivery. So it's so important. And right now, we also discussed that most of the political parties, instead of speaking on what they can do for the country, but they're speaking more about their credibility on why you should vote for them, but not what you are doing or what you're going to do for the future of the country. So I think it's important, maybe political parties need to go back and look at what they need to do to make a better place to live in. And one of the important things is our healthcare system, because if our healthcare system is failing, our people are dying. They're not dying because it's time for them to die. They're dying because there is no help. There is no treatment for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have, death is inevitable for all of us at some point, but it seems as though the lack of quality healthcare, the lack of safety and security in this country is speeding up that process in a way that is unwarranted and inhumane. What are you as a political party offering to make that space a lot more sort of humane and dignified? Yes, sir. You can use the mic at the front.
Good morning. Yes, my group, as we are discussing, they will feel me if I'm jumping into anything. About the safety, healthcare, safety and security, the issues that we have. Okay. Our country faces one of the greatest challenges since the advance of democracy. As you can see, that's across the nation. There's a sense of anger and disillusionment as corruption is at the prime or on the top. So this may be understandable, hence we have heard stories of tenders for personal reasons that have been given to individuals associated with the leading organization, ANC, which led to public servants breaking the law in assuring tenders. So the problem about safety is that people are scared in a manner that one of my colleagues there was telling us a story about the fact that, like for the fence, if you don't have a fence in your yard,